What's going on, guys? You're watching Sneaker News on YouTube, and today we're taking a closer look at the Nike Space Hippie 02. Before we do that, just do us a quick favor, please hit that subscribe button, and we'll get right into it. And before we show you the actual shoe, we just want to go over the basic release details that Nike just revealed. The official release date for all full models is June 11th, and it will be available on the Sneakers App worldwide, and that goes for the Space Hippie 01. The Space Hippie 02, the Space Hippie 03, and the Women's Space Hippie 04. And while that fourth shoe is a women's colorway, all four will be available in both women's and men's sizing. So before we start talking about the whole Space Hippie initiative and the reason why the shoe was created in the first place, we just want to go over the basics from top to bottom, just give you guys an idea of what the shoe feels like, how lightweight it is, things of that nature. So just starting from the top, as you can tell, this is more of a mid-cut chukka-like style. It's a little bit different from the 01 in that the 01 has, the traditional lacing arrangement, but these do not. These have this ribbon that are sewn into the upper, and you could just sort of like pull them up just to tighten, just to kind of get it into your foot. Also has that heel tab. The ankle is way more padded than the rest of the foot, and there's a little bit more elasticity just so it kind of hugs your ankle. As you can see, there's extra threading like grid into the heel as well as the midfoot that provides some sort of stability. You got that nice forefoot swoosh in that bright orange. That's something that Nike has been using a lot for their very futuristic shoes, and just the placement on that swoosh reminds us of a lot of mercurial football boots and things like that. If you look here on the medial side, again, there really is no swoosh, but you do again see that there's a little bit more emphasis on that heel and the midfoot. But this is a lifestyle shoe, so unlike a shoe like, let's say, the Epic React or the Infinity React, the upper is actually very, very soft and elastic. It doesn't really like hug your foot really tight. And if you ever worn a shoe like an Epic React, for example, it really hugs your foot, but these are way more softer, and we have some on-foot shots to show you that just how soft the elastic upper is. It's very there's not much like tightness to it, so it's really comfortable. This is purely a lifestyle shoe. We wouldn't really suggest you go running in them because if you like stub your toe on something, it might hurt a lot. But again, the upper is really soft, really elastic, really easy to wear. The shoes are really simple to slip on, and again, going back to the Epic React, if you ever try to wear a pair of Epic Reacts, they're like impossible to put on. So the upper design, again, it's like knit uppers aren't really new, but the upper is made with 85 to 90% recycled materials. It's pretty much made of plastic bottles, so that's really cool. The outsole itself is called Crater Foam, and basically it's this proprietary foam that they made, and they injected like all these little bits of like grinded rubber, recycled rubber. That's why it creates this almost textured speckled material, but it's not just on the outside, it's actually throughout the entire material. And as you can see in the outsole, there's this very exaggerated like toothy midfoot, and it shows the ZoomX insole inside. And the ZoomX insole is actually pretty interesting, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. And you can see just basic traction patterns. You see the Nike Pinwheel logo, you see SH at the forefoot for Space Hippie, and in terms of the actual design of the shoe, the midfoot chukka knit sneaker isn't really new, but it looks entirely different. The midsole is completely new. It kind of has that more wider base and a chunkier base. It's something that you something that reminds you of like the SFB boots, which has been used in the Tom Sachs footwear. But again, this is the 02 model, and looks really clean. Again, really comfortable on foot. So that's just a quick basic overview of what the shoe looks like and feels like in hand. We do want to talk a little bit about the whole Space Hippie initiative. So, sustainability has been something Nike's been focusing on quite a while, and this really isn't the first time they've really tried to take on something like this. I mean, if you think back way to like 2005, Nike basically took old materials and made them into new shoes, and later on there was Nike Trash Talk, which basically stitched together leather scraps to make other shoes. Flyknit is another example of where they took recycled materials to create sneakers. So this is the idea of creating a sustainable shoe isn't exactly new, but this might be the best, most well executed one to date. The Space Hippie footwear has the lowest carbon imprint ever in Nike history. So that's definitely a great achievement for the brand. And their goal wasn't necessarily just to create a sneaker. Their goal was to create materials that are open source and create a toolkit that pretty much anyone can use. So Space Hippie may be the name of this shoe, but Crater Foam and this recycled yarn on the upper is something that they're going to use for a lot of other footwear models and maybe even apparel moving forward. And we had an opportunity to speak with Noah Murphy-Reinhartz over a video chat. He's the sustainability design lead for Nike Innovation, and he talked about this specifically, saying it was one of the bigger challenges actually. So here's what he had to say.
The foam in the sock liner, the Zoom X here, all of this is 100% scrap material from that production process. And what we wanted to do was use as much of that as we could, because otherwise it's complete waste. Getting that foam to stick together in the right way and have the durability and still have the kind of like amazing underfoot feel and energy return that it has in those elite marathon shoes, that was probably the biggest technical challenge. And so what we wound up doing was taking it and putting it in kind of this cake with the Crater Foam. So the Crater Foam protects it and wraps it in this other material, but then you've still got the Zoom X in the core of this.
So aside from the upper being completely made of recycled material, the Crater Foam is definitely something that's interesting because it has potential to be applied to all different types of footwear. So Crater Foam, basically, it's a blend of standard Nike foams and Nike grind rubber, and that's all these little dots that you see. One of the more interesting things is that this light blue color just sort of naturally came about. Again, here's Noah speaking about the outsole.
That particular blue, it's basically 50% of a typical Nike chambray. So we had never molded the foam ourselves before. And one of the tricky things with Crater Foam was saying, hey, can we take a production machine and shoot all of these bits of recycled rubber through it? And a lot of people said, no, no thanks. But there was one part of the innovation building where we've got a lot of these old machines, and the engineers said, yeah, sure, go for it. And but we didn't know how to mix foam, and so they actually gave us a 2-part foam where half of it was uncolored and half of it was this typical blue. And so the blue that you see in the Crater Foam is the result of that blend. And so it just stuck. It was kind of like a visual cue for us originally, and then it became the color. But we really tested this to the same level of performance standards that we do with running product. They actually had them on running wear testers in the woods around Beaverton, which you were like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a disaster, but it worked out really well. And so, yeah, we want that foam to be available for any kind of performance shoe.
So when we did see the Space Hippie for the first time back in February, and even more so now that we have a pair in hand, it's the whole space exploration aesthetic is very evident in this particular sneaker. There's materials that you typically see in spacesuits and things like that. And, that in general, that trend has been running rampant in sneakers for quite a while. And that's not just with Nike. It's like every brand has kind of moved forward with that whole space theme. And when we first saw the shoes too, we kind of thought it had a very Tom Sachs kind of look to it. So we asked Noah specifically about that, if the whole Tom Sachs look was something that they're trying to achieve, and here's what he had to say.
The way that we came to the space exploration idea was this idea of, like you talked about, using the things that are to hand. We were watching, we were doing the brainstorm around the shoes with all the materials, and as we were taping them together, one of the designers, she said, hey, this is like you're trying to repair your shoes in a space station. And that led us down like, oh, it's like the movie The Martian. He's like farming potatoes in this ruined space station, and he's living off the land like a hippie, but he's doing it with all these high-tech tools. And so that tension of culture but high tech, and the improvisation and the mixing of those two, that's really what brought us back to that idea of space again and again, both the kind of cultural change, cultural revolution, and high-tech exploration.
So another thing that needs to be pointed out is the shoe box. Now this just looks like a plain brown cardboard box, and I think that's by design because they want it to be very discreet and nondescript. I mean, there is just like the basic Nike, insignia on the bottom, and of course like a shoebox tag. But once you open it up, that's where all the magic is. You see the Space Hippie in that awesome font, and basically you have to open it up to discover the whole, space exploration thematic. You can see Nike Trash Transformed and all the new logos, and there's even like a QR code kind of thing. And This also came with the shoes. It's like a nice little tote bag that appears to be made of that same yarn material. So dope shoes, dope tote bag. Of course, all comes with the shoes. So that's our quick review of the Nike Space Hippie 02. A big thank you to Nike for sending these over for us to review. And of course, thanks to Noah for taking the time to speak with us. If you guys want to learn anything else about the Nike Space Hippie Pack, just check the links below. We'll have all the information for you there. And again, the shoes drop on June 11th on the Nike Sneakers app. So thanks for watching. Please hit that subscribe button and we'll catch you on the next video.